Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast. Today's guest is Tanya Smith, and she is the founder of WorkStory Creative, and she fills the gaps with professionals to help them build authority, raise value, and attract high-end clients through authentic and beautiful brand storytelling. What I really enjoyed about the conversation with Tanya was her philosophy around being more of a CEO in her business versus being the technician in her business, and then what the steps she took to be able to do that. So settle back, listen in. Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Yes. And what's cool is though we've met we don't know each other very well.
So I know, right? Probably just met in passing a couple times
at
some NABO events.
I was just going to say, and we love NABO.
Yeah.
So I know. So I'm going to learn so much about you over the next half hour or so. So I'm super excited. So let's jump right in. We both know from running our own businesses that it is so easy to get to the end of the day and wonder, where'd the day go?
Right.
Or to look up at noon and be like, all I've done all day is answer my email. How did that even happen?
Yeah.
Or that feeling of putting out fires constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And so every business owner does things that work for them. And so I would love to know, what are some of the strategies that you use to help you stay in control of your day?
Sure. So I actually didn't realize how far I've come in my time management until I recently started coaching some moms that were starting to get into business, and they would miss our meetings or use their kids as an excuse for not showing up and all these things. And that's where I was 5 years ago. I just kind of let everyone else dictate my time and had no boundaries and no plan for taking care of the kids when I wanted to work, and no plan for when to work. And so over time, I've learned to, have a plan for childcare if I need it when I want to work. And then putting notifications and alarms in my calendar so I don't forget meetings, and, putting the address to the meeting right in my calendar, just little things like that shave off wasted time. So I'm not getting in my car to go to a meeting and be like, where is this meeting? And then also just planning, right? I never used to plan out on Monday exactly what needed to be done and when I was going to do it, which I definitely do now. And of course, like you said, it's not perfect. Sometimes things come up that I have to juggle it around, or, I just don't get it done. But for the most part, that has really helped me maximize my time. And then lately I've really been working on my mind, because a lot of the times it's just our thoughts that prevent us from getting stuff done, procrastinating, oh, I'll do it later, or I just want to relax right now, or that kind of stuff, right? I think that's kind of going to the higher level of being productive, and just really managing those thoughts that are going on in my head.
Right.
And trying to be, more of a CEO instead of just the person doing the work in my business. That's another thing. I guess I've been delegating a lot more and working on systems and processes to just, like I said, shave more time off of what I actually have to do.
Yeah. So let's start there, and then I'm just going to work myself backwards.
Okay.
So let's start with the delegating. Right? How did you decide what things that you wanted to keep, what things that you wanted to delegate? So let's start there.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, the very first thing I ever delegated was cleaning my house, because I didn't want to do that, and anyone could do it, right? I figured it could take me an entire Saturday to clean my house. So what if I just had someone do that, and that gives me, all those hours back to either do work or spend time with my family or whatever I want to do. But then I have a virtual assistant now, and when I brought her on, I just made a list of all the tasks I have to do and just picked some out that weren't something I necessarily had to do because of my expertise or interfacing with the client or whatever. And so we just started with one task. She took over organizing my email at first. And then when that was all worked out, we started adding other things. And she's actually been helping me develop and refine my systems and processes so that I don't necessarily have to hire a ton of people to do things. It just either gets automated or I have checklists that make it easier. And so, yeah, we've just been, once we get one figured out, we just go to the next thing. And it's been really great.
I love that process. And congrats on starting with the email, because I find that is the hardest place to keep your hands mostly off.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I was just overwhelmed every day. Like you said, like it would be noon and I'm like, I haven't even got through my emails and half of them are junk anyway. I don't even need to like reply to them, so she just goes through and categorizes them into answer today, check later, and then delete. So I can, I still scan them, make sure there's not something that I actually need to take care of. But for the most part, I can just click all on that delete folder, delete them all, and then just focus on the important ones for the day. That has really saved me a lot of time.
I was just gonna say, imagine how much, not just time, but brain space.
Yeah,
that you're saving.
I would be so overwhelmed. I'm just like, oh my gosh, and then I'd let it go for like 10 days and be like, oh, I haven't checked my email.
Right.
And then it would be even worse.
And, in this, that magical thinking that somehow 10 days later, there would be fewer emails in there than there was when you started, right?
Yeah, right. Well, that's the mindset piece, right? Like I would just avoid it because I was so overwhelmed. Instead of just being like, okay, I'm going to get this done in 20 minutes or whatever, even though it hurts my brain.
Well, let's talk about that mindset piece. So I heard you say something in there about being a CEO versus working the technician in the business.
Yeah. Right.
So tell me a little bit more about that whole mindset piece.
Yeah. I guess just thinking differently, right? Instead of thinking I have to do everything, thinking more of I can grow and scale if I only focus on the most important parts and hand off other things to other. And that's what a CEO does, right? A CEO isn't going to answer the phone and, like take do the emails and write the checks or whatever, like they have different roles, a higher level role in, coming up with the ideas and making things happen. So I've just tried to think more on that level. And I mean, I am still basically a one-person business. I have some contractors that I use, but I think it's okay to think of yourself as that higher level a person in your business, especially if you want to grow.
Absolutely. Most of the people that I am in contact with, almost all of my clients all started out as the technician in their business. Mm-hmm. And most of them started their business because they loved servicing clients.
Right.
Then they're like, oh, wait, I want to grow the business. And then flip to that part of, oh, that means that I will service the clients and do all the business stuff. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is like, oh, great. Now you start a business so that you could have 2 jobs instead of just 1.
Yeah.
And so when you hit that tipping point of being able to say, wait a minute, I can grow the business and I don't have to do everything in the business.
Right.
That's when life starts to become grand.
Yeah.
Like, that's when anything is possible.
Right.
And you're doing that. So talk a little bit, please, about, you had said procrastination. Like, go down that path a little bit with me.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so good at procrastinating sometimes.
Oh, congrats.
Well, I love TV and movies. So like if I turn on the TV while I eat my lunch, which I know is a bad habit anyway, sometimes I just get sucked in and like the rest of the day will be gone. And I'm like, oh, I have to go pick up my kids now. And I didn't get the things done. Right. Or I get distracted by other things like, an email comes in or a call comes in that I wasn't planning on having to deal with. And then I totally get sidetracked from what I had on my list to do. And then it can be hard to recover because then you don't have time later to do those things. Or like my husband has his days off during the week. So sometimes, I plan to work, but then he's like, let's go to the movies or
right, or like anything. Let's do anything other than work.
Yeah, and it's hard to say no to that because I'm like, well, that sounds like a lot more fun than what I planned to do. So I actually plan now to just block that time out. Like, this is the time to spend with my husband, and then I work around that. And that was something I had to learn as well, and to just give myself that time. And so I actually struggle to block out time for exercise or relaxing or that kind of thing, because I do love my work. But I have learned to just, if I want to do those things, I have to get them in my calendar, just like anything else.
Right.
So.
I totally agree. And I hear you. My husband's a school teacher. And so, like, I can usually plan fairly well for like Christmas break and spring break. Snow days are killers because you don't know they're coming. All of a sudden, he's home. And then he's all, I'm just going to sit out here really quietly. And I know you have to work. Well, he's right there, like right on the other side of that wall.
I know. Yeah. I have 3 kids. So if there's a snow day, forget it.
Yeah,
I'm not getting anything done. Or like this week, one of my kids, he had a sniffles, and the school called and was like, you have to come pick up your kid, and he has to get a COVID test. So now he's just here. So, things like that kind of throw a wrench in the schedule, but I've learned to just deal with it, right? Like, it's my kid. I have to take care of him, and we just work around it and figure things out.
Right, exactly, which is what you started with, is kind of like, you need to have a plan B.
Right.
The kids aren't the excuse, they're the reason.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. That may not have come out exactly how I intended, but they aren't the excuse not to do the business. They're the reason to do the business.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't want to have a 9-to-5, because then, it's even more difficult to go pick up your kid if they're sick. Or I just want to be there for them. I want to be the one to drop them off at school and pick them up. And that's one of the main reasons I have my business. So.
Right. And when you stay in your zone of genius and do the things that you are, there's time to do that.
Right.
Because you're not getting bogged down with all that other little stuff.
Yeah.
Which is important and is needed to run a business, but you don't have to do it.
Yeah. And one thing I've found surprising too is I love providing a job for someone else. Like, that's been an interesting, like, benefit, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I love that my virtual assistant, I'm helping her be a stay-at-home mom, and then I have a videographer and a photography assistant that help me. And it's just fun for me to know that they're part of my team and that I'm helping provide them with a job too. So that's been an interesting thing I never really thought of before.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. You're creating or helping to create additional life value for your team, which is awesome and amazing. I love that. Like, delegating is one of my soapbox issues. So you're totally in my lane right now. I love delegating.
I resisted it for a long time. Like, I just was holding on so tight to doing everything and felt anxiety, I guess, about handing it off to someone else. And I don't consider myself a great manager. So I've had to learn some of that. Like, how do I tell the person you didn't do it right and correct them or train them? I'm still learning all of that. So.
Yeah. And so what was it that helped you let go a little bit?
I think just that mindset of, I'm ready to take it to the next level. Like, I felt stuck. I couldn't really grow my business. I can only take on a certain amount of clients. And I was spending 90% of my time doing all the administrative stuff and not doing the part where I'm servicing clients. So I want to do more of that.
Right. So, the stuff that you like, and that's fun. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about clients. Like, what is the work that you do?
Yeah, so I own a branding agency. And so I help mostly small businesses and coaches, consultants, that kind of thing, develop their brand image. And most of them have been in business for a while, so they know their target market. They're ready to go to that next level. And so sometimes that involves, just defining the brand voice. And then from there, either designing or redesigning a logo. Sometimes we rename the business. And then the whole brand style guide. I give them some direction on how to make their social media and their marketing look cohesive. And then sometimes it involves photography and videography to help tell their story. I'm really focused on storytelling, branding, and marketing. My company is called WorkStory. And so Yeah, that's what I do. I always say if your business was a person, the brand is what they're wearing and
Oh,
how they speak, right? Like it's how the words they say, their demeanor, what they wear, where they hang out. That's the brand image of your business, is if your business was a person. So that's kind of how I like to describe it. And that's the role that I play, is making you look good.
I love that analogy. That is awesome. Oh, that is so,
Yeah, I
I
think
just
like
love that.
branding is a concept that some people don't understand, right? Like, it's kind of conceptual. It's hard to see a hard return on your investment sometimes right away. It's more of a long-term thing, and it's like attraction marketing too, I like to say. Like what you're putting out there, you'll get back as far as the type of client you want to attract. And so that's why it's important.
Well,
And
and it's more than just logos.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Much more. Yeah. That's just the
So
very
much.
beginning, right? That's the tiny little mark that you use to identify yourself. But there's so much more, down to like how you answer the phone, and, how you're portraying yourself in pictures or videos, even the ones you do yourself. Like you mentioned, the background in my video, like that's very intentionally created. But
Mhm.
what I wear is very intentionally created you know, for my brand image.
Right. Right. Well, I think of it kind of like that iceberg. They'll show that
Oh
iceberg thing.
yeah,
Like the
right.
logo is the piece above the water, and
Yeah,
all that other stuff is the
right.
stuff below that you can't see.
Right. Yeah. And I have a really cool process for developing that. It's called a brandstorm. And actually, before we do any other work, you do the brandstorm, and it's an interview where we go through all these questions and look at where you've been and where you are now and where you want to go with your brand, and even your marketing, or where you want to take it. And from there, I make a brief that's kind of recommendations of what I think you should do, and then they can decide to hire me for that. Or sometimes I'll recommend someone else for parts of it, or maybe there's parts you can do in-house, that kind of thing. So that's the below
Right.
below the
All
iceberg
below.
part, the foundation of your brand image. So
Yeah. And I love that it's not just where have you been and where are you, but that it's also where do you want to
yeah,
go.
right. Yeah.
And that's a lot like time management coaching. It's okay,
Yes.
you're here, where do you want to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't identify that, like you said, all of a sudden I realized, hey, I want to be more of a CEO.
Right.
Like, until you know that, how do you draw the bridge from
Yeah,
one place
right.
to the
And if you don't
next?
change anything, you'll stay stuck where you are, right?
Yes, yes, yes. One of my favorite quotes is, you will stay where you are when the pain of staying is less than the pain of moving.
Yes.
And so as soon as that pain of moving becomes less than staying,
Right.
then you'll make the change.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Exactly.
can be like, to your earlier story about some of the people you're working with, you can miss 80 meetings
Mm-hmm.
and be frustrated. But as soon as that one meeting you're late to really matters,
Right.
then all of a sudden there's that flip.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's time for a new strategy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I love this. I love this. And we could, of course, talk all day about all of this, but I will forget to ask you the most important question. When you get that extra hour in your day, because you're being the CEO in your business, you're doing what you need to do, how do you like to spend that 25th hour, or that extra quote unquote time that you have?
Right. Yeah. Well, I already mentioned I really like TV and videos. Or movies. I guess it's just an escape for me. If my husband happens to be home, we love to go to the movies, or just out to dinner. He's my favorite person to spend time with, and I don't get to spend a lot of time with him. So we do that. And then, just playing games with my kids. We like to play, Chinese checkers or cover your assets, that kind of thing. And then if my extended family, if I have an opportunity to meet with them, we all live about a 2.5 hour drive away from each other. We like to just spend time together. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything super amazing that I do. Just relaxing. I used to do more like crafts and painting and stuff, but I don't know. I don't do a lot of that anymore. Life has just kind of changed, and I get my creative outlet from my work. So I just don't feel the need to do that kind of stuff anymore. But
which, and you know, it's so funny. No apology needed for how you like to spend your 25th hour. It's what you do that rejuvenates you and fills you up, and which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like being able to go to the movies.
Right. Well, I think I like to, storytelling is my thing, right? So I like to study films, and like my husband and I will discuss it, like the plot and the characters and stuff. So I guess it's kind of an extension of my my mission that I do for people, and I just love that part. And I'm really good at predicting what's going to happen. At the end of the movie, I'm like, oh, like this is classic, like this storyline. So yeah, I guess that's why I like it so much.
Like, do you like the movies where you can predict them, or do you like to be surprised?
I think it just depends on the writing. You know, I really appreciate good writing and good production value and character development. You know, if all of that's there, it doesn't really matter if, you know, if I kind of knew what was happening, because you never know, right? I'm like, this is my guess of what's going to happen, but sometimes you don't know how it's going to end. But even like we watched And Then There Were None the other day. It's based on Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians, which is like not politically correct anymore.
The name change.
Yeah, but I've seen the play. I know the plot. You know, everyone dies at the end or by the end, but it was still really fun to watch how they made the movie and interpreted it for this day, and the actors, and it was still really riveting, you know, like how's this one gonna die next or whatever. So it doesn't matter if I know the end. And there's some movies I watch every year just because I like them so much, and so it doesn't really matter for me. I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was with my nephews, and we were having a conversation around their favorite things on Netflix, and you know, all of that. And one of my nephews hates when he can figure it out early.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, I know, sometimes I feel that way too. And he's like, here's a list of shows that you want to watch, because I'll bet you can't figure any of them out. And I was like, okay. So I have a whole list ready to go. But then there's something to be said to sitting down and watching a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
totally predictable.
Right? And like almost to the minute.
Right.
Okay, we're getting about 90 minutes in. There's going to be the first drama. Okay, you know, and there's just something nice about that.
Yeah, you can just relax and just enjoy the story, I guess.
Right. And just be like, I know it's going to be happy at the end, and I'm good with that.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. Anything else that you'd like to share?
Right. Well, my website is workstorycreative.com. So you can find me there. And then I have a Facebook group called Rock Your Luxury Brand. And I would love for people to come, you know, connect with me there. I share a lot of free trainings and just great discussions on how to elevate your brand and run your small business, I guess. So that's a good place to connect with me. And yeah, I would love to hear from anyone if they have any questions. And thanks so much for having me on the show. It was a great conversation.
Oh, my pleasure completely. So thank you. And we'll put all of Tanya's info in the show notes. So make sure that you click on all the links. What did you learn? What did you take away from Tanya's story and her strategies? And what is it that you're going to implement and do differently? I would love to know. Shoot me an email over at lisa@impactofstrategies.com.